Hey guys, welcome back to Pine Haven Acres. My name is Kirsten, and today we are going to be tanning a deer hide for the very first time. So, a little backstory. I shot this deer a little over 2 months ago, and after cleaning it and packaging up the meat, I decided why not save the hide and learn how to tan animal hides. So I stuck it in the freezer. I did flush it with the power washer beforehand, so it is pretty clean right now. There shouldn't be much fat or flesh that I need to take off. But it has been in the freezer for 2 months, so today is the day that we start working on it. I've watched a couple YouTube videos and try to piece together how I'm going to process this hide. There's a lot of different ways, as I found out, so we're just going to try and attempt, and we'll hopefully end up with a pretty nice product in the end. So hopefully this works out. If it doesn't, that'll be kind of sad, but it is a learning process as always. So the first thing that I am going to do is salt this hide. It was pretty wet when I stuck it in the freezer because I just power washed it to get that flesh off. So we are going to use the salt and try to get some of that moisture out before we put it in the pickle. So yeah, let's get started. It's still pretty frozen. I've had it thawing for about 24 hours in and out of the fridge, but when I rolled it up, the inside is still pretty frozen. So we shall see how easy this will be today. This doe was really big. We're guessing she was about 4 years old, and she probably weighed somewhere around 200 pounds. So I'm really hoping that I can preserve this hide because it is going to be one large, gorgeous hide once we're done with it. These parts here are still frozen, but everything else is pretty soft. And I don't know if you can see, but we have some discoloration right here and in this area where the bullet went through, but I'm not too worried about that. Alright, and for the salt, I'm just using table salt. I have seen on other people's YouTube channels about doing the hides that you want a finer grain of salt. So I'm just using this table salt, and we're going to put on a pretty good layer, and then we'll roll it up and let it drain for 24, maybe 48 hours before we wash it and move on to the pickling process. Gonna try to get these edges real good, make sure that it covers everything. I think I might go get another can of salt actually. Maybe, we'll see. I don't really know what's supposed to be like the ideal amount of salt, but she's pretty wet right now, so I think I might need some more salt. Alright, so the second layer of salt just went on. It's pretty windy out today. So I'm going to fold this and roll it up, and then I'll put it in a bucket with some scrap wood pieces at the bottom. So as the liquid does drain from this, it won't be sitting in it. And yeah, we'll just leave it in there for a day or two. Here's the bin that I'll be using for pretty much the whole process. I've got a bucket in here with some wood pieces on it, and I'm just going to put the hide on top so that it can drain off into the bin, and then it'll be easier to discard after it's done, and then the hide won't have to sit in it either. So I'm going to try to put it on so that our cut pieces are facing down so that they can drain off easier. Something like that. And like I said, it's still pretty frozen, so I kind of folded it the opposite that I did when I stuck it in the freezer. So our frozen pieces are now on top and exposed. And like I said, it's pretty windy today. I've got a salt can rolling down into the snow. I've moved it into the garage here so we don't have any problems with the elements or wild animals outside. But it's literally only been like 2 minutes, and look at all of that. It's already started to drip, which is a super good sign. So maybe it'll only take a day before we're ready to pickle it. I have my pickling acid and some other like cleaners and stuff ordered, so they should be here by tomorrow or the day after. So we'll just let it drip until then, and then yeah, we can move on to the next step. For the bath, I am using Mackenzie Relaxer Degreaser, and I'll be adding 1 to 2 fluid ounces to every 5 gallons of water, and we'll just let this hide sit in there for 15 to 20 minutes. Alright, so our hide is done in the wash. Now we are going to be adding it to the pickle, and right now I'm in the process of mixing up the pickle. I've moved my big bin here up to one of our bathrooms so I can use the tub. I'm also hoping that I can take the rack up there off and put it inside the tub for when we need to hang the hide and let it dry. Hopefully that'll work, but I have a lot of water here, so I didn't want to, carry it around the house when we get to that step. So I'll just be keeping the hide in here for the next 3 days in our pickle. I've got 7 gallons of water here, and it's kind of warm water. I need it warm enough to dissolve the salt that we're gonna put in, and because we have 7 gallons of water, I'm going to be doing 7 pounds of salt. And then additionally, for our acid to make it the pickle, I've got Mackenzie Ultimate Acid, and according to the instructions, I will need 3.5 ounces of this acid for the amount of water that I have. And I also got, let's see if I can find them, here we go, pH test strips, so we can test our water and pickling solution and make sure that the acid is where we want it. It should be between 1 and 2 on the pH scale. 1.5 I've heard is like the sweet spot. And this is just to make sure that we don't have any hair slippage. I do want to keep all of the fur on the coat or hide. I'm used to rabbits. So it's very important that our pH level in this pickle is spot on, so we don't have any issues. So I'll be testing the water right when we get everything mixed in, and then I'll test it again in a few hours, just to make sure that if we need to make adjustments, we make them right away. So yeah, that's about it. Let's get started, and we'll start pouring in our salt and then our solution. I'm going to try to soak everything, and then before I put my lid on and leave it for the day, I'm going to make sure that all of the underside of the hide, like the flesh side, is facing down. I don't want any of that sticking up. And then I'll come back 2 times, maybe 1 time a day for the next 3 days to swish it around, make sure that everything's getting covered again. Alright, now I'm going to test the pH level of the solution. So I have my test strip here. We're going to dip it in, and then we'll see if we need to make any adjustments. And if you can see this, we are at a perfect 2. So we're looking good. I'll come back in a few more hours and test it again, make sure that we're still at 2 and we haven't gone further up. But yeah, looks good. I tested our well water, and we are at like an 8 or 9 on the pH scale. So this is kind of fun. I kind of want to test some more stuff now. But to finish it off now, for the next 3 days, I will be keeping a lid on top, just so nothing gets in there. We do have house cats, so I don't want them drinking this water. And that will wrap up this step of the process. Our hide has been sitting in the pickle for 3 days now, and it's time to neutralize it so we can move on to the tanning process. To do that, I'm going to neutralize this tub of pickle solution and bring it up to a 7. And I'll be using baking soda to do that, and then it'll be safe to dump down our drain or dump outside and discard. And then I'll refill this bin with water, add some baking soda. We're going to do 1 gallon of water to 1 tablespoon of baking soda. Let this sit for probably about 30 to 40 minutes. What I've seen is if you have a thinner hide, you'll want to do it for 20 minutes. But this hide is pretty thick. She was an older doe, and she was obviously storing up fat for the winter. So her hide is pretty thick, so I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit longer than that. And then afterwards we can hang it up in the bathtub to dry. Now I'm going to test this solution and make sure that our pH level has risen enough. Well, I'm running out of baking soda, so I was able to bring it up to a level 5, but no further than that because I need to be saving my baking soda for our neutralizing solution. So I just had my brother come up here and help me carry this bin down and outside, and we were able to dump it. I didn't want to risk dumping it down our drain in the bathtub just because it wasn't quite there. It's still pretty acidic, and I didn't want to ruin any of our plumbing. So we got that taken care of. Now we're going to fill this up with a couple gallons of water, add our baking soda, and then we'll put in our hide. I think we're probably about a 9 to 9.5. So that's pretty good. There's still, some of the pickling solution on the hide right now. So it'll probably go down once we put it in there. So we'll just keep an eye on it. I do have about 2 more tablespoons of baking soda left. So let's put in our deer hide. And it's actually looking really nice right now. You can see the hide is white. There's still some discoloration, but I'm thinking once the tanning oil's on it and we start stretching it and working it, we'll make it a nice white. And I'm not too worried about the color at this point. I think in my future projects I will be, but this is my first one, so. My biggest thing was making sure that I was able to keep the fur on the pelt, or hide, I guess, used to rabbits. So we're gonna mix this around, make sure that everything gets wet, and we'll come back in 30 to 40 minutes. It's been about 40 minutes, and I'm going to put the hide up in the bathtub now to hang dry for about an hour or 2. The next step is going to be to put on the tanning oil, and I don't want it to be completely dry, but I also don't want it to be soaking wet, so I'm going to let it dry for a few hours and we'll come back and check it. So I wanted to take the shower rod and put it up kind of in the middle of the bathtub, but it didn't stay very well, and this is very heavy. So I just have it going from corner to corner, and I'm going to try to lay out the hide on it from like tail to neck side so that we don't have so much hanging down. So yeah, let's see if that works. Very slippery. Something like that. Looks pretty good. I might put something underneath this to kind of hold it up a little better. Or not. Alright, let's try that again. I might have to figure something else out because I want to be able to drip off and not just stay wet on the bottom. So I'll get back to you if I decide to change this. I was able to get it up there and it's dripping a lot better now. So we'll let it sit for an hour or two and then I'll come back and check it. I did also squeeze it out and try to get as much water off as possible. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like in a couple hours. Alright, we are ready to apply our tanning oil. This is not dry yet, but it's almost there. It's got a sticky, tacky feel to it. So I got my oil here. This is what I'm using. And I've put it in a bowl of warm water to warm it up a little bit. That's supposed to help it bond to the hide a bit better. And I've spent the past hour or so scraping this side of the hide and just trying to get some of that flesh off. It was pretty well cleaned up before we started, so I didn't have to do much, but it also helped to get some of the extra water out. I got it back up here, so now we're just gonna let it kind of dry in that spot for probably overnight. That'll give it a good 12 hours or so. And then tomorrow we'll check it. The instructions on the oiling container said that it should be hung up for 2 to 3 days, and then when it starts to dry, to stretch it. So that's what we're gonna do. Once it's pretty dry, like I use the whole container, that's what it said to do, but it's kind of dripping here. But once all of that liquid stuff has soaked in and it's not drippy anymore, I'll probably move it to a different room of the house to finish drying all the way, just because we need to use this shower. But so far it's looking pretty good, and I think we're gonna have a pretty nice product in the end. We're getting so close to the stretching part. I'm getting super excited. But yeah, this is what it's looking like right now. And I have some paper towel and old newspapers on the bottom so that it doesn't stain our tub. But yeah, see you in the next one. This is what it's looking like. It's been 2 days since we first put the oil on it. 2 or 3 days, can't remember. But it's looking pretty good. So the middle here you can see is the most white, and that's where it was hanging on the rail and the shower rod. So the weight of it just kind of stretched it itself, so I didn't have to do anything here in the middle. This is the bullet hole right here. And then as we come down toward the ends, it's a little bit more yellow, and it's not fully dry down there yet, so I haven't stretched it. There's some end pieces like right here that I've already stretched, but I still need to do some more down at the bottom here. So I'll show you what that looks like. But I was able to stretch like everything in between. And so far it's really flexible. You can probably see as I'm moving it around, it's really flexible. And I'll probably, I don't know if it'll focus, it's kind of bright, but there's like little bits of skin and stuff, so it's not super smooth. Like it's soft, but it's not like smooth texture, just from when it was cut off and stuff. So I'll probably take a sandpaper on my handheld sander and just go over that, make it even more soft. And then I'm gonna try to figure out a way to get these edges stretched a bit better. I'll probably have to get like a 2x4 and screw it into something, or I don't know, we'll figure that out. But the hair stayed on really nice. We didn't have any slippage. It's still in the process of drying all the way. It's probably like, I don't know, 90% dry. But it looks a little like patchy. It's not super smooth. So I'll probably take like one of our cat hair brushes and just brush through it to smooth that out. And yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with it. The stretching was really fun. It's super satisfying just seeing the color change. So when you're stretching it, you're essentially breaking the fibers in the hide, and it changes the color. And also it makes it more flexible and soft, which is what we want our hide to be. So I'll show you some areas down here I still need to stretch. I brought the hide outside and now we're going to sand it down. I have my orbital sander here behind me and I'm going to be using 80 grit sandpaper. So that didn't really work out very well. You can see where it's all rough here. That's where the sandpaper was. And then this smooth part is just the natural hide. So I don't really like that. It's a little rough. I'm going to try to correct it with just some regular sandpaper. We'll see if we can smooth it out a bit better. Okay, that feels a lot better. I'm just gonna go over this part with the sandpaper and try to smooth it down. But yeah, that didn't work out so well. Can't believe everything you see on the internet, right? That grit sandpaper was definitely not the right recommendation. So besides that fail, I think everything else went pretty well. I'm just gonna leave the rest of the hide how it is. I don't want to ruin it. But the last step is going to be to brush out the coat, and that'll be it. Then we'll be done. We've made it to the end, and this is how it turned out. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. There's definitely room to improve, but I think the more I do it, the better they'll get. But I'm just really glad I was able to preserve this and keep it for hopefully the rest of my life, with it being my first deer and all. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and learning how to do this along with me. If you haven't already, please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.